In every accident and emergency department in the country, in every A&E, there is a red phone. And when that red phone rings, a shiver goes up the spine of everyone who's working there. Because they know it means one thing. When the red phone rings, it means that someone is coming in who is at the edge of life and death. Not someone who has a heart attack, not someone who has a ruptured, appendix. Someone who is literally moments away from death, if not already dead, and they're trying to revive him. That's the only time the red phone rings. And when the red phone rings, it doesn't matter if you are on your way home, packing up, if you're seeing another patient, if you're going to the toilet, if you're having your lunch break, nothing matters. When the red phone rings, everyone comes together in the recess room because they know every second counts to save the life of this person. Every second, every moment, everything that you do counts. And if you were the medical student in that room at that time, and you offered to take the blood bottles and run it up to the lab, you would get a high five from the team. They would say, "Well done. Thank you. You were very helpful." But if you were the consultant anesthetist or the consultant in the emergency department, and you did the same thing, what would happen? If you were the consultant and you walked up and you said, "Let me take those blood bottles and I'm going to run it up to the lab," you would lose your job. You would get sacked. Why? Both of them did the same thing. One guy, he's running up the blood bottle, everyone's saying, "Well done." The other guy is running up blood bottles, he's losing his job. It doesn't make any sense, except that there is something different between those two. There is a difference in potential. What the consultant could do was lead. What the consultant could do was have experience and share it and bring people together. Run the actual resus. The medical student did just what the medical student could do. So we all agree on this scenario. You know what the problem is, my brothers and sisters? The problem is every one of you thinks you're the medical student when you're actually the consultant. Every one of you thinks that you're the one without potential, that you're the one who's supposed to be running up blood bottles. When in this ummah, from literally Malaysia to Morocco, there are hardly any group of people who have more potential than you. There's hardly anyone who has the safety that you have in this country. There's hardly anyone who has access to knowledge and information that you have. You can literally walk into some of the top universities in the world. There's hardly anyone who has access to the wealth that you have. Every one of you has a mobile phone, which most Muslims in the world don't have access to. 45% of the Muslim world is illiterate. They're poor. That's more money than they'll see in a year. You have access to more people, more friends, more opportunities than they can even dream of. They are literally dying in their thousands, getting onto boats with their entire family, drowning in the sea for the chance to step foot in the land that you wake up on every morning. There's no one in the Muslim world who has the potential that you have. You have Islam, well, that's why you guys are here, and you have access to the best that the Western civilization has been able to do in terms of science and technology. And yet, you insist on seeing yourselves as the medical student. When I travel around the country, what do I hear from the young people? What are the Muslim leaders doing? Oh, we're not getting a chance to lead. The mosque committees, they're old people. Leaders don't ask for the chance to lead. Leaders don't given a red carpet and say, here's your pathway to leadership. Leaders aren't told, here's your 10-step plan, and then you become a leader at the end of this. You start leading. That's how you become a leader. And you keep leading, and you keep learning from your mistakes, and you learn from other people's mistakes. You don't wait for the opportunity, you make the opportunity. You don't wait to strike when the iron is hot. You make the iron hot by striking. That is the problem that we have today. I love history, Islamic history especially. And when you read history, they say that history is a biography of great men and great women. And that's true. I love reading about how, like this kid from Corsica, an island that's closer to Italy than France, whose French was terrible, ends up becoming Napoleon. Who, when he was a corporal in the army, wrote to his future wife, he sent a picture of himself, and on the back of the picture he wrote, "To destiny." Napoleon was a guy, you should know this, he loved traveling to his battles with a mini library. He had all his favorite books written in miniature, so he could have a mini library with him, so he could read them when he's traveling or even on the battlefield. He had the Quran in that library. And get this, he did not file the Quran in the section with religious books. He filed the Quran under politics. He knew more about our religion sometimes than I think than we did. My brothers and sisters, I love reading about people like Nizam al-Mulk. Nizam al-Mulk grew up in the middle of nowhere. His father was just a minor official. And this man, within a few decades, grows up to build a system and an infrastructure in the Muslim world which gave us Al-Ghazali, Salah ad-Din, and the Ottoman Empire. If you trace them back, how do you get all of these things? It comes back to this one guy, Nizam al-Mulk. I love reading about people like that. People like, even like Neil Armstrong. He grew up on a farm in Ohio. This kid who grows up on a farm in Ohio, within 20 or 30 years, becomes an aerospace scientist, a fighter jet pilot, and before he's even 40, is landing on the moon. What makes people who are literally born into nothing, into nowhere, who have very little potential when you look from far away, how did they convert this potential into power? That's what you want to know, right? Because you're sitting there saying, okay, fine, you want me to lead. Maybe I have potential, but how do I convert that into power? How do I make myself get into that leadership space that I need to be in for the sake of this ummah? There are three things I will say. You need to conquer three things. The first thing you need to conquer is your lack of vision. You know, whenever we start an Islamic project, whenever I see someone starting an Islamic project, I know immediately if it's going to work or fail. Because the first thing that most projects start with, and most people start is, we need money. We need money. You don't need money. You don't need money. Money is a test, it's a trial. Money comes when you do work. None of these guys started off saying, let me build my millions, let me get the sponsorship, let me get this. No, you don't need money. Money, in fact, is a decelerant. The more you get money, the more that you are dictated to by the money that you get. And people say, you know, you need money to survive in this world. There's a narrative that's building, especially amongst, my generation and older. When I was going around as the MCB Secretary General, lots of people come with advice, and I respect them. I'm very grateful for their advice. The number one advice that I got: MCB needs money. 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 I was like, my God, no wonder we're in this bad situation. What would you do if you gave me £5 million? You'd waste £5 million. We don't have the people. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have a vision. Without that money is useless. And we see this in Islamic societies. I've seen this disease. It's in Islamic societies today. When we were in ISOCs, we had no money. But we had himma. We put people together. We would work. Now, every ISOC, I need sponsorship. I need £10,000 sponsorship. What? What are you going to do with that £10,000? Tell me what you guys are doing that I don't know about, that we weren't doing 20 years ago now, that you need £10,000 for. We need to print this booklet. We need to get that venue. Wallah, you can be on the street and you'll be more effective. What are you doing with that money? That money is a curse. You'll see, and I promise you this, most ISOCs are less strong than they were 20 years ago, and they have much healthier bank balances. Choose. If your priority is money, mashallah, you will have the money and you will make all those charities, they're giving you tens of thousands, because mashallah we have thousands of charities who are willing to just throw money to get into the ISOC ladder. Be part of the problem. Keep saying, this charity is going to give me 5,000, that one's going to give me 10,000. Keep doing that, and then ask yourself why we have no leaders and why no one wants to join you. Why the majority of Muslims are still in the club on Friday night rather than in Jum'ah. The other thing that people think they need, I need Islamic knowledge. I can't talk. How can I lead? That is a test from shaitan. He's trying to trick you. No, you need to sit down. How can you speak? You don't know the Quran. How can you speak? You don't know this, you don't know that. If you want to be a sheikh, yes. To be a leader, you don't need to become an alim. That is not the sunnah of the Muslim history. Our leaders had Islamic knowledge, but they were not always scholars. That is a new phenomenon. Erbakan, who was the father of the Islamic revival in Turkey, he was the mentor of the Turkish President Erdogan. He said that when I was young, my teachers would always tell me, sit and read Quran, sit and read Hadith. Sit, read. And he said, every time I sat down and read, the Quran and Hadith would tell me, get up and work. So I stopped listening to my teachers. And that's why Turkey changed. Because if he kept listening to his teachers, Islam would still be where it was in the 60 years ago in Turkey. The other thing, I'm not saying don't get Islamic knowledge, but don't use it as the excuse to not be a leader. The house is burning and you're like, I'm not going to evacuate yet, I need to read Bukhari Sharif first. That is literally what happened. You're laughing. That is literally what happened in Samarkand when the Mongols arrived. When Genghis Khan arrived, the Emir of Bukhara said, you don't need to worry, because the people were worried and they were scared and they were all in the main mosque of Bukhara. They hid there. And he said, don't worry, I have paid money and the madrasa students are going to do a khatam of Sahih Bukhari. So we will be saved. They were all killed. They were all killed. Except one little boy who was left. And then others will say, we need a strategy. That's my generation, right? The ones just a little bit older than you, they've got into this mentality because they've lived so long in the corporate world and they've become used to this idea, we cannot move without a strategy. The biggest problem of the Muslims, the biggest problem? We don't have a strategy. We need a change strategy. What's your theory of change, brother? We need a 100-year strategy. We need a 1,000-year strategy. Why 1,000 years? We need a 1 billion-year strategy. We need to do this and that. It's corporate speak. None of these people that I told you about who changed the world sat down with a strategy. They started changing the world and the strategy was built around them. A better way to say that is with this great philosopher, Mike Tyson, right? He said, everyone has a plan until I punch them in the face. Then the plan goes out the window. Don't be the one being punched in the face. Be the one doing the punching. So, conquer your lack of vision. I'll finish on that point, your lack of vision, with one point. Lawrence of Arabia. You all know Lawrence of Arabia, right? The man, when you see him, he's dressed in the Arab clothes. He spoke Arabic. He lived like an Arab. He ate like an Arab. He got into the hearts of the Arab people. But when Jerusalem fell, he turned up, marching in with the British army, wearing a full British uniform, like a soldier. One reporter asked him, you are Lawrence of Arabia, aren't you? He goes, yes. He goes, what happened? Why do you change out of all these clothes and you're wearing the normal British soldier's clothes? He said, when I was young, I used to read the books about the Crusades. And I dreamed of being a crusader and freeing the Holy Land, because I didn't like how the story ended with the Crusades. And I'm a man who dreams with my eyes open. Those who dreams with their eyes closed, you can ignore them because they wake up and they get back to their life. But the ones who dream with their eyes open, they're dangerous because they can change the world. My brothers, my sisters, do you dream with your eyes open? What is your vision for this ummah? Do you dream at all? It should be loud and clear. We should see it on your face. I know when I see a person with vision, because there's something. They have places to go, things to do. They don't waste time. They don't couch. They don't have procrastination. They have an irada, a goal, a destination, and they're going for it. What is your destination? And don't tell me it's Jannah. That is the basic you are as a Muslim. As a leader, what is your goal? What is the destination you want to take this ummah in? What do you want to do for us? What is your answer for the people of Gaza who are crying out? They're not crying out for money, by the way. They're not crying out for guns. They're not crying out for anything. They're crying out for you. What are you doing? Where are the Muslims? What is your answer? Your vision will answer that. Without a vision, you are blind. And you will fumble through this world like a blind person, trying to fumble through life, struggling to get from one end to another. The next point that you need to conquer, lack of discipline. Ali radhiyallahu anhu said, do not falter, it is not a sign of faith. What do? We spend our lives faltering. I say this respectfully, the way we treat our Islamic work is like a girlfriend rather than a wife, or like a boyfriend rather than a husband. What do I mean by that? This is a journey that 99% of Muslim students will be on who are active. Today, I'm interested in da'wah work, I'll do some da'wah work. But I got into an argument with a da'wah guy, and then therefore tomorrow I'm going to start doing some work with charities. But then, this person, it was just a bit too much hard work. I'm going to ditch that. I'm going to read some tafsir. Now I'm going to do some Quran recitation. Here, I'm going to do some advocacy work. Just moving from one thing to another. Every time the going gets tough, you get going. Every time you have a disagreement, you don't need to stick with it. You just get going. Every time that you have a problem, you just walk away. And you spend your whole life walking away. At the end of what do you have? Very little to show. Your own children will have no idea what you did. You won't remember what you did. But if you treat it like finding a spouse, you think about it, you consider it, what fits with your personality, what fits with your skill set, what fits with who you will be in 10 years' time and with your family. And then you say, I am going to make a difference in Islamic education. I am going to make a difference for the refugees. I am going to make a difference in politics. Whatever it may be, and you stick to it, then what do you get? Like in a marriage, at the end of it, you get children. You have a legacy. You have comfort because you stick with it through the good times and the bad. Do we do that? No. Let's use Palestine as an example. I'm nearly finished. We protest to power, right? We lobby to power. We beg power. We boycott power. Who in this ummah is trying to build power? None of us. We remain powerless. We must do all those things, but remember this, those are the action of the powerless, not the powerful. Until we go from being people who are boycotting to the ones who are being boycotted, until we go from people protesting on weekends to empty buildings to the ones who are being protested to, until we go from those who are begging our oppressors to slow down the killing, not even stop it, but slow it down, to the ones who make those decisions, we're not going to make any change. This is because we lack discipline as a community. We want the feel-good factor. Let's go out, let's make some noise. Building infrastructure, not so much. Building systems, no, not really, not interested in that. You can see, I'm part of the Muslim Council of Britain, and this is the FOSIS annual conference. Probably the two most important organizations for Muslims in this country, with very little funding and very little support. Our own members spend most of our time telling us, you do nothing, externalizing us. FOSIS, bunch of jokers. You're FOSIS, you donkeys. You are FOSIS. It is you, it's your body, it's your heart. You turn around and say, my heart is letting me down, what a loser. It's part of your body. This is your organization. This is your umbrella body. If it is weak, it's because you are weak. If it's not doing the job, it's because you're not doing the job. If it has less people, it's because you're not joining. And I can't believe after 67 years that FOSIS has less money than the smallest mosque in this country. Because at some level in our mosque we say free Palestine, but our actions say that my wudu facility for my local mosque will have more funding than the entire FOSIS network for the Muslim youth. And then I have to ask myself, why are the Muslim youth so disorganized and disunited? That's loser talk. That's crazy talk. And we're engaging on it in mass deception day and night. You need to fight with discipline. Stick with it. Join, get involved, and then build. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years. And if you do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you barakah, inshallah. The last point I'm going to say on this is that stop getting angry for the results for work that you never did, right? We never did the work. We've never worked on political engagement, so why are you getting angry that the politicians don't care about us? We never built economic power, so why are you getting angry that we have to boycott everything? That's what people say, right? I got to boycott everything. I got to boycott Google and Microsoft or whatever. What do? I boycott. Literally, if you properly boycotted everything, you would probably die of starvation. Because the whole infrastructure is built, and we're too busy being consumers rather than leaders. I'll finish on this last point. This is the final level boss. So I told you, you need to conquer your lack of vision, you need to conquer your lack of discipline. The last thing you need to conquer, the final level boss, the hardest thing to conquer, the thing that even other people who actually conquered countries couldn't conquer, is your nafs. A scholar once said, if you need a reminder, the grave is sufficient. And if you need an enemy, your nafs is sufficient. Khalid ibn Walid anhu was the greatest commander of all time, not because he won every single battle, he did that, not because he defeated 2 superpowers at one time, he did that, but because when he became Muslim and he went to Masjid Nabawi, he turned up with Amr ibn As radiallahu anhu. Before the Prophet ﷺ even got to him, his older brother was a Muslim, turned up and he said, no, you need to read this ayah from the Quran first. Khalid ibn Walid said, no, don't make me read it. He said, you have to read it. He said, please don't make me read it. He said, no, you cannot become Muslim until you read this ayah first. I will not let you. And Khalid ibn Walid, the conqueror of continents, started crying. And he read the ayah. What was that ayah? It was the ayah cursing their father, Walid. He had to break his nafs. Which is why the greatest victory that Khalid ibn Walid ever did was not Yarmouk or Qadisiyah. You know what was the greatest victory? The greatest victory was that this man, Saifullah, was standing there when a messenger arrives from Umar ibn Khattab and tells him, you are dismissed as commander of the army and go back to being a soldier. He could have done a coup. He could have done a revolution. He could have even uttered a word to say, I'm unhappy. He said nothing. He said, fine. And he went back and he remained a soldier. Napoleon would never do that. Caesar would never do that. Alexander the Great could never do that because Khalid ibn Walid anhu did something that they could never do. He conquered his nafs. Can you conquer yours? A lot of you will say, I don't have an ego. Yes, you do. All of you. Every one of us. The reason we're in this mess is because we have an ego. The reason why we have people who are in mosque committees for 20 years in a row is because of their ego. They think nobody else can lead except me. The reason we have 1,001 Muslim charities, we don't need them. Do you think we need 1,001 Muslim charities? They're all, some of them, like Itar, mashallah, they're doing specialist work. But the majority of them are just replicating work. Ego. The reason why we have 3 mosques in one street in Luton or in Leicester, there are 8 mosques being built on the same road. Ego. The reason why the ISOCs don't want to join FOSIS or want to hold FOSIS to account, it's ego. Let's be honest. They don't do a good enough. It's an ego. It's just like, you know what? I'm not lesser than them. I don't want anyone above me. I don't want to listen to anyone telling me to do anything. It's the same. MCB is exactly the same. Most of the Muslim organizations, it's not in their interest that MCB succeeds. It's not in their interest at all. Because then they have to listen to what somebody says. Listen guys, Eid is Sunday. No, I want to do Eid on Monday. Screw you, I'm not going to listen to you. I want to do Eid on Tuesday. I'm not going to listen to you. We should allow women into the masjids. What? I'm not going to listen to this guy. Everyone wants their own thing. Maybe we should have one young, 65% of the Muslim Ummah in this country is young. Maybe we should have one young person in the committee. What? Are you crazy? These young people, all they know is TikTok. They don't know anything else. I'm not going to listen to you. Nobody wants to build a system. We need to conquer our nafs, our ego first. Even on campus. The existence of a Bangla sock is your failure. The existence of a Pak sock is your failure. The existence of an Arab sock is your failure. The existence of all these new societies that are being built, Palestine Action Society, this society, Majlis Society, everyone building up 100 new societies. We weren't disunited enough in already? It's your failure because you haven't done the work. You haven't reached out enough. You haven't won their hearts over. You haven't got enough you've got this elitist mentality. Sorry, I know I'm generalizing here. But I'm going to be honest. You might have this elitist mentality. You're happy you got the 20, 30 practicing brothers and sisters who are coming together to let's do a halaqah on Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani's book. Wonderful. And then the rest of them are still drinking alcohol, going clubbing, etc., etc. What are you doing? Break your ego. Destroy it. Kill it. And then you will see you'll be able to lead, inshallah. I'm going to finish with one last thing. Some of you will say, I'm not a leader. Fine, not everyone can be a leader, although the Prophet ﷺ answered this already, right? Every one of you, whether you like it or not, has a flock. Even if you think you don't, you do have a flock. So every one of you is a leader. I was in Masjid al-Haram on the roof, and my father called me. He called me to the edge and he said, what can you see? Look over on the masaf where everyone's doing tawaf. What can you see? I said, I see, some people doing tawaf, I see some people praying, I see some people going home, some people drinking zamzam, some people talking. Just random. Chaos. In 1,000 languages, 1,000 colors. He said, wait. The iqamah went. Suddenly, he said, now what do you see? Everyone lined up, row by row, straight rows, no crooked, everyone, row by row. Within a second, the whole masjid, 3 million people. I see people lined up in rows. He said, remember this. Your job is to be the muezzin for unity. Every one of you, your job is give the iqamah for unity. Because when you do that, I know our ummah is weak. I know our ummah is suffering. I know our ummah is going left, right and center. Some people are doing this. Some people are doing that. Some people are concentrating on this. Some people are concentrating on that. Some people are chasing the dunya. Some people are chasing the akhirah. I know we're all over the place. But if you call the iqamah for unity, then your ummah will line up. One by one, person by person, city by city, country by country. The whole ummah will line up. And when they line up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send you an imam. My brothers, my sisters, your job is to call the iqamah for unity. That is your only job, not to put on events. Not to make sure that, X number of motions are passed in the student union. To call the iqamah for unity. When you unite the Muslims, inshallah, then you will move from potential to power. And the last thing I'll finish with is, remember that red phone? That red phone is ringing. This whole ummah is one big A&E department. And the red phone is ringing. But the patient coming in is the ummah itself. And now you have to have a decision. Are you going to be the medical student or are you going to be the leader? Jazakallah khairan. Subhanallah.